Welcome to the 67th episode of the Sawdust Nation podcast. Here with you today is myself, Nat, from Nat Snyder Works LLC, Nick from MPG Creations, Josh from North Country Woodworking, and special guest, it is quite the treat to have you here, sir, CEO from Inventables, Mr. Zach Kaplan. Welcome, sir. I appreciate you being here with us on our podcast. And we look forward to the interview portion of this. But before we do that, Nick, let me hear our sponsors.
Oh, right. You are there, Nap. I want to thank PWN CNC for making this episode possible. Daniel over there at PWN CNC has amazing products for upgrading on all of your CNC needs. Dust boots, toe clamps, you name it, he's got it. Check him out, pwncnc.com. And for 10% off, the promo code Sawdust Nation. And next up, I want to thank Totalboat for all their support. Oh my goodness. They've got the best epoxies, great varnish, and wood fillers. Check them out, totalboat.com. And if you need a promo code for them, just slide into our DMs on the Instagram and we'll send you one for 10% off. And last but not least, Jtechphotonics. Thank you so much for your continued support, sir. Mr. J over there has amazing customer support. If you're looking for that diode laser experience for your X-Carve or your Shapoco or any other aftermarket, any other consumer CNC machine, check them out. And on Instagram, hit them up at Jtechphotonics. So, Mr. Kaplan, this is your moment, sir. We're going to give, we got so many questions about your new exciting device, the X-Carve Pro. So I know we spoke about it on the live event, but can you please tell us a little bit about the X-Carve Pro? Now, mind you, not everybody was on our live event, so it's kind of going to be redundant.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on both the live event and the podcast. I appreciate that. So this, as you can see behind me, is the X-Carve Pro. It comes in 4 foot by 4 foot and 4 foot by 2 foot sizes. It's about 300 pounds, so it's a high throughput machine. It's got ball screws that are about an inch thick in diameter, so it's like 25 millimeters. We were talking about the kind of throughput you can get with a 1/4 inch bit. You can go 1/4 inch depth per pass, 1/2 inch depth per pass, or 3/4 inch depth per pass. So very high material removal rates. The spindle is 2 horsepower spindle, and it's got a VFD built into the controller, so it's all integrated with easel. You just click the carve button just like on the X-Carve and the machine starts. One of the cool features that we added to easel with the launch of the X-Carve Pro is the ability to do tiling. So you can actually carve 4 foot by 8 foot sheets on the X-Carve Pro, but you do need an outfeed table to hold the material because the sheet will bow if you don't do that. And then we upgraded.
I've proven that wrong before. No, I'm just kidding. I do it all the time. Anyway, go ahead, sir.
We upgraded the wasteboard, so in addition to the threaded inserts like the X-Carve, it also now has T-tracks, and it comes with the clamps for the T-tracks as well. And we had to do that because as we were testing the high material removal rate, the clamps were popping out of the threaded inserts.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, it was pretty intense.
That's some serious force. So yeah. Is your new spindle, is that going to be air powered or water cooled?
It's
air cooled or water cooled?
No, it's an air powered 2 horsepower spindle.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And it's rated for over or just about 3,000 hours, but we're seeing 3,000 to 4,000 hours of time on the spindle.
Okay.
And then we'll be selling replacements. After the 3,000 or 4,000 hours, we'll sell replacements on the site.
So, how big are those steppers that run that machine?
The steppers are NEMA 23s. I cannot remember off the top of my head the torque rating, but I know that they are higher torque than the X-Carve.
Oh yeah, well, I can't imagine you got a Ferrari over there and you're putting a Pinto engine on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So. I've had that issue before. I've obviously upgraded my X-Carve 1000 millimeter and had the old steppers on it, and it was kind of like, well, why did I upgrade this if it's not going to go any faster? But I hear you. So on another,
the steppers are not the bottleneck on this machine.
Yeah. Okay. So on another note, though, if any of our listeners are interested in the X-Carve Pro, you can head over to inventables.com. There's plenty more information over there, and they have an outstanding customer service team that will also assist if you have any more questions. But on a more personal level, Mr. Kaplan, what is it like to be the CEO of one of the coolest companies in America?
I mean, it's a lot of fun. I will say it's an honor and a privilege to work with the team that we've got in Inventables. We have almost 50 people now. And at the beginning of the pandemic, we went virtual. So we had an office in Chicago. And so now we have people in 13 states all over the country.
Okay.
And it's a really fun ride because we get to talk to folks like yourselves and people starting businesses, running businesses, building businesses. And for me, I think that's the most rewarding is like hearing the stories of folks, whether how they got started, whether it started as a hobby or they lost their job or they already had a business, and how did they get into an X-Carve or X-Carve Pro, or Easel now actually works with 15 machines besides Inventables machines. And so we're starting to meet people who are machine owners of other varieties. And so that's for me the most exciting part of the job.
So is it true? I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Nap.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, because you asked them, what is why, how it feels. What got you there? How did you did you just one day wake up and say yeah, I want to work with a CNC company or whatever? What got you there?
So I got inspired to get involved in CNC in high school. When I was in high school, most of the kids in my high school went to 4-year college, and not a lot of people did trade school. And they were going to get rid of shop class at my high school. And the shop teacher went to the Board of Education and said, instead of getting rid of shop class, how about we add computers and make it sci-tech? So that was my freshman year. It was the first year they'd ever done this. And I just got hooked. And so every year I would take as many classes in the sci-tech lab as you could. And they had 2 rooms. One room was just the manual machines, like a Bridgeport lathe and a Bridgeport mill and LeBlanc lathes, welding, all that stuff. And then in the other room was CNC mills, CNC lathes. So I got very lucky to sort of have access to all that stuff as a 14, 15, 16-year-old. And I got hooked, and that inspired me to go to the University of Illinois and get a degree in mechanical engineering. And then I started my first company during school. I was really anxious to get started with entrepreneurship. It was just custom software. And 6 months after I graduated, sold it to a bigger custom software consulting company and tried to figure out what was it that I wanted to do with the rest of my life, because I knew it was not software consulting. And the most fun I ever had was in that high school class, because I spent 2 years building a steel model roller coaster that we machined out the car on the CNC mill and the axles on the CNC lathe and all the tracks in the manual machine shop. And I was I just want to get back to that kind of stuff. And so that was sort of the original inspiration for Inventables. Is what kind of product can we develop for people who are doing R&D and product development in companies?
That's pretty inspiring for a lot of people, especially the people like us who just are driven to make and build. So, but is it true? I do have another question on another line though. Is it true that Inventables started as a crowdfunding for a homemade CNC, or
no? That is not true. That's false.
That's false. How did Inventables get started then?
So I started Inventables in 2002. So way back, and it started as a subscription to a material library for R&D groups. So our subscribers were essentially the R&D groups at big companies like Nike and Procter & Gamble and Black & Decker. And they were subscribing, and every 3 months we would send them a box, and it had different materials and technologies in it that had unexpected properties. And it would come with a little magazine that had 1 page for each material. And then also there's an online database.
Okay. So what kind of materials? I don't know, gunpowder and matches or no, I'm playing.
No, so one of the materials was a squishy magnet. So it was soft and squishy, but also a strong magnet.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty cool.
There's a suction cup tape. So it would adhere to a non-porous surface, but it was not sticky.
Okay.
They actually used that on the bottom of like a phone docking station.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it was hundreds of different cool materials.
So it sounds like there was a long transition between, you doing one job and then starting Inventables and then going into the CNC realm. So
yeah,
the first X-Carve, what did that look like? Does it look much like what we have today, or is it quite a bit different?
Yeah, so the first CNC machine that we launched was actually the Shapeoko 1. Even before that, we launched the Maker Slide. So Bart Dring is a inventor in Chicago. He was an engineer, and he invented the Maker Slide and did a Kickstarter for it. I think it was like 2011. Somebody could probably Google that right now and see the original. It was the Maker Slide Kickstarter was actually before the Shapeoko 1 Kickstarter. And I met Bart at Maker Faire Detroit. So
Detroit?
Yeah, a lot of people from Chicago drive up to Maker Faire Detroit, at least when they used to do it. I met him up there, and he showed me the Maker Slide, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And he's like, "Yeah, did you see the Kickstarter?" And I hadn't, and I didn't really fully understand it when he showed it to me because it was just like looked like a piece of aluminum extrusion. And he's like, "Yeah, it's got this rail on it," and he had done a video, I think, for a camera slider that used it. You could probably find that on YouTube as well. And he asked me, he's like, would you like to sell it in the store? Because at the time we were selling all these different materials. So we had transitioned from subscribing to get the information on these materials and getting the samples for free to we put all the information on the web and you would just buy the samples of the pieces of the materials. And so he's like, would you like to sell the Maker Slide in the store? Because he had a full-time job as a mechanical engineer, and he had fulfilled the Kickstarter out of his garage. So he cut a tool, and he had to take the day off, and he rented a semi-truck and drove up to Michigan to load up the semi-truck to fulfill all the Kickstarter backers of the Maker Slide. And so I remember I was like, I don't know, like, hasn't everybody who already wanted Maker Slide bought the Maker Slide after your Kickstarter? And he's like, I don't know. I keep getting people every day who call me and they say, hey, can I buy it? And he's like, I just don't want to deal with them anymore. So we did it we didn't do a Kickstarter, but we did it as like a crowdfunding or pre-order on the Inventables website. And I honestly didn't know if more people were going to want it or not, so that's what we did it that way. And we had like a cutoff where like I think the minimum order with the aluminum extruder is like 500 pounds or something like that. So we basically calculated like how many feet would be 500 pounds. And we said, if it gets to this, we'll do it. And if not, everybody gets their money back. No big deal. So we ended up selling enough Maker Slide to go to the top of the Sears Tower.
Oh, wow.
And so everybody was like pretty surprised about that. And we had to, on a temporary basis, rent another room or like office in our building just to take delivery of all this aluminum.
Jesus.
Yeah, I can imagine. It looks like that Kickstarter, you were right on the ball. It was 2011. Yeah.
And real quick, just to add on to that, so you were talking about like people pledging and whatnot. I'm looking at the site right now. This is created by Barton Dring. 269 backers pledged $26,000 plus.
Right. So we did it on our site after he had done that.
That's crazy.
And around the same time, so Edward Ford had launched Kickstarter for the Shapeoko 1, and you can see it on there. He had a different railing system. I think he was actually in the picture on Kickstarter, he was messing around with like drawer slides. And so Bart reached out to him because he was about 2 hours away in Dixon, Illinois, and said, hey, would you be interested in using the Maker Slide as the system for the Shapeoko 1? And I met him at Pumping Station 1, which is like a hackerspace in Chicago. And I can't remember if I asked him or he asked me, but he agreed, well, let's put it on the site and see what happens. He also had a full-time job at the time, which was not making CNC machines. He worked in a factory out in Dixon. And we put it on, and it was super successful. And so that was that's how it got started and how Inventables got into CNC.
So how did Inventables... You guys started the Shapeoko and then they
Edward
branched
started
off?
It as an open source project prior to Inventables selling it. And then after it was open source, he then did a Kickstarter. He fulfilled the Kickstarter. I can't remember. It probably says on there how many, like maybe like 100 units or something like that, but it says it on the Kickstarter. And then we launched it on Inventables as a full kit after that.
Okay.
So essentially, my machine was birthed from Inventables, so to speak.
So you're still part of us in a way.
In a way, I'm trying to reach right now. Okay, let me have my small bit of like belongingness, because I'm like,
this just sounds like the chicken or the egg kind of thing going on here. So I'm just, but this is all very intriguing because I never had. I mean, I got a little bit of backstory on Inventables. Obviously, some of it was misinformed because of my previous questions, but it's very, very interesting, especially now that you guys have launched your X-Carve Pros. You guys have any, I would say, interest in going into like, what do you call it, manufacturing machines for actual like industrial purposes?
Well, the Pro is actually being used in industrial settings. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a customer that actually had a military contract, and he was making composites. He's doing 12,000 parts on the Pro by the end of the year, and he sent a picture of his shop, and it was like pretty cool because he's got his Haas VF2 on the one side, and then he's got his X-Carve Pro on the other side. And we asked him, like, why are you using the X-Carve Pro if you have a Haas VF2? And he said that the yield on the Pro for his particular application is higher because the Haas VF2, the bed is so small, you can only get 2 up for the part that he's making. And on the X-Carve Pro, he can get 36 up. His yield is just much higher, and he has less wasted material. And so we're starting to see a lot of like established machine shops and industrial applications that are using the Pro.
Man, I'm probably going to buy a Pro now. I'm looking at it right now. I'm actually over here looking at this thing right now because, like, I'm like, okay. Sorry, Nick. I might have an X-Carve Pro by next year.
Hey, more power to you, man. More power to you. And I hope that my commission is
you get to use it one time a year. How about that? So go ahead.
But no, go ahead, Josh.
I know we talked about this a little bit again on the live, but for everyone that's listening in that has or wants to order a X-Carve, now you mentioned that maybe in the future, once shipping kind of does become an issue, the upgrade kits for them that are available on your website currently or might be selling with the upgrade available when you buy the kit. Is that correct?
Yes, it is correct that it may be selling together when you buy the kit. We're not making any formal announcements on that right now, but it may be true. But no, so right now, yeah, you have to buy them separately. There's a lot of supply chain things going on right now, and so. But yeah, we agree that would be a great idea.
Awesome.
Wow, Josh. That if this was court, I would say objection leading the witness.
Well, we got to get a little bit of leaning into the future happenings at Inventables. Make sure people understanding that they have a very intro CNC machine. You can go in, you can get it, you can start right off the bat. Easel is pretty much allowed me to start, so that should say something. And then you have the Pro, which people are using from businesses all the way to corporations, and like there's always something coming, especially with a company. You have to, and we all know that. I mean, on our level, we're always trying to produce bigger and better things. I know since we're all CNC users, we have a lot of people that listen to the podcast or follow us on Instagram. They come to us asking us, hey, what is the best CNC out there? And the little tidbits that you're providing here allow us to basically go out and be like, this is where we believe the best CNC is, because not only do they have a good product, they're continuing to make it better.
But they innovate. It's either innovate or die, and they're doing an outstanding job.
We got a lot of stuff coming in the pipeline.
So just a real quick question before I don't know how much time he has left, but so would it be safe to assume, like, if I wanted one of these, right, let's just say.
Yeah. Hypothetically.
Well, no. Would I want to wait a minute before I buy it? Obviously, one, because of supply chain, because I'm probably going to wait for a minute. But
the X-Carve is in stock, ship same day, and so does the upgrade kit. What he was asking about is like, will there be a day where it comes together?
They're together,
as opposed to 2 different SKUs.
All right, so for me personally, you have to say nothing else, sir. I'll wait until that happens, possibly, if it does ever happen, and if not, I'll still buy it later. But I'll wait a minute.
I can't promise it, but what I can promise is if it does happen, it will be in stock.
Oh,
Smart.
And hey, check this out, Mr. Kaplan. I just want to tell you that one of our sponsors, PWN CNC, makes some outstanding products for the regular X-Carve 1000 millimeter. So I don't know if you guys are aware of his operation, but they just announced new spindle kits. So if once he launches all that stuff, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you what to do or not, but I'm saying I think it might be worth your while to take a look at his spindle kits that are built just for the X-Carve. So anyway, and on that note, Josh bought his X-Carve because of me. So
listen, Nick, it's just like OMTech.
Nick was in or lived next to me. He lived in Jersey and he had an X-Carve. And when I would stop by his shop, talk to him, he would be running his X-Carve. We would talk about it. It was something that I was very familiar with through him. So when it came to, sitting down and buying one, it was easy decision because I already saw it in use. I know what it could produce. And he even helped me set it up. So, I mean, I bought my X-Carve, I could say, because of Nick. And he basically put it together for me. I just kind of watched. My big question for you, I guess, is easel. So did you have a role in developing that in the sense of like programming? I know since I bought it, it has been upgraded so many different times on the pro side. I'm very impressed by the, almost, I would say weekly, I go in there and I see something that's a little bit different. So can you tell us a little bit about, how that came to be and like where it's going?
Yeah. So when we launched the second machine, we really thought that the bottleneck on making it accessible for people was cost. And so I think the second machine, it was like $650. And what we very quickly realized was cost was not the number one issue. It was the complexity of the software. Because in those days, you needed to have, I don't even think Fusion 360 existed. You needed to have CAD, you needed to have CAM, and you needed to have a machine controller. So 3 pieces of software to run a 3-axis CNC, especially a tabletop. So the vision with easel was like, all right, like this is really complicated. If we want to make this really accessible for millions of people to be able to use a CNC, it needs to be really easy. And so I think the mission, if I'm remembering correctly, was can we get people, once they have the machine, can we get people started in 5 minutes or less? And so it needed to be all-in-one CAD, CAM, and machine control. And it needed to be like a printing-like experience. We just click the button. You needed to be able to use any computer, not like just a lot of the software is just Windows or just Mac. Like, so it needed to be like Mac, Windows, Linux. So that's why I went with the browser. We knew that if we designed it, like we weren't going to be able to compete with software that had been out there for 20 years on day one. So we needed to be able to update it frequently. And the cloud software was the only way to really do that. And on top of that, we were thinking, the difference, all the software to that point had been designed to be on the desktop and was really designed for big companies in mind, right? Where they have essentially tons of money and tons of experts. And it was on premise. And so we were like, our customers are sort of the opposite of that. It's not one big company. It's thousands of people all over the world or millions of people all over the world. So how can we make it, if we make it in the cloud, maybe we can make it so they can collaborate. And so that was really the original idea and vision. And we spent about a year building before we launched. And we launched in March of 2014 at South by Southwest.
That's awesome.
I know that the software is very user-friendly, especially for beginners. And I got to let you know that we appreciate that, especially, the X-Carve was my first machine and I had nobody to ask questions unless I was calling somebody in another state. Because I know a guy who had one, but I didn't have anybody nearby that I could be like, hey man, can you come look at this for me? So I was essentially flying blind and using YouTube. And at that time, there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on YouTube. So, over time, it became easier and easier just because it's so darn user-friendly. And I know a lot of people down it, but I don't see, I see them trying to, their applications are completely different than what we're doing.
Easel is very intuitive. Like you go on there, it'll walk you through every single pace. people that are not using it and still using the X-Carve, their business is taking them a different direction. For our purposes, at least for mine, I mean, once I learned it, and your forum where in your support, you can go on there, ask a question, and you get answers, and people are jumping all over that trying to help you. So the online community for your product is amazing. The one question I have to go off my original is, will there ever be an offline version of Easel available?
Yeah, so there actually is an offline version of Easel available today.
That.
If you just load up the browser and unplug from the internet, Easel still works.
Wow. Okay.
Pro tips.
You do not need the internet to. So we don't use the internet to carve. All we use the internet for is just to save your files for later and to share with other people. All the carving is happening locally to your machine.
That makes sense. Okay.
So real quick question on spot, because y'all are on the topic of software here, talking about Easel. So obviously being a ship local guy, I started with Carbide Create, and that was so much fun, right? But I ended up stepping my game up to Vectric Pro. Okay. Now, obviously, your machines do work with Vectric, I would assume, correct?
Yeah. So you can use Easel for CAD, CAM, and machine control. You could bring your own CAD, or you could bring your own CAM. So it's totally compatible with Vectric VCarve Pro.
Yes. Excellent.
We actually have, I think it's like 5 or 6 different imports right now. So one of them is G-code. So if you export G-code from VCarve, you can do that. You can import a DXF file. So if you have a CAD package and export DXF, that's fine. You can import SVG. So if you're using if you're a good Illustrator person, you can import from Illustrator. And then you can also import like a photograph, like a JPEG, or if you draw something on a piece of paper, take a picture with your phone, you can import that. And Easel will essentially draw a vector over your picture. Mm-hmm. And then there's now 3 million pieces of artwork in the art library.
I've used that. Files. Yep. I mean, some of the apps you have within Easel itself is very useful. And those are, as far as I know, produced by people that have been using Easel, correct?
Yeah. There's, basically it's just an online community of people who built it. There's some prolific people like Ethan Kinney. I don't know if you've seen his stuff, but that dude is just churning out apps like a madman. And then, we now have, I think it's like 12 people on our software engineering team. And so that's why we've been able to increase the pace of development. And so recently we've launched some more advanced features like ramping. So, so it can kind of go down either at I think it's 5-degree or 20-degree angle.
I've been kind of nervous to use that myself.
Yeah, I tried that. Okay. I tried that. Yeah, I tried that. I won't share the results. It is cool. I won't share the results though. I messed up. It was user error.
Ramping when it works well is actually very, very useful, because that way you're not just doing a straight plunge to get like an 1/8 of an inch. You're slowly digging down and then it goes into it. So it is pretty good.
Yeah. And then I was talking about tiling. So you could do material that's larger than your bed, whether it's on the X-Carve or the X-Carve Pro, as long as you want. And then we added the toolbox, so you can save settings, set your own materials, your own bits, and your own speeds and feed settings. Let's see what else is recent. The text effect stuff, so you can like bend and curve the text is in there now.
One of my favorite additions that you've added thus far since I've owned it is you're able to move different speeds, X and Y, and then the Z. Right, previously it was like you do X, Y, and Z all the same speed. Being a new user, I would forget to adjust the speed, especially with the Z axis, and have issues. But now that I can utilize the feature of separating those speeds, like I said, it's very user friendly. I mean, like all the mistakes I've made, it's almost like you guys are tuned into what I'm doing because you've added features to help protect me from that.
I'm pretty sure customer service has like queries on what people call about. I mean, it's got to be, you guys got to track all that stuff and figure out what our issues are the most that we're having, especially as new.
Yeah. So we have now, I think it's like 7 people in customer service that are fielding both, pre-sales and technical support questions every day. And we actually have opened up Sunday support. So obviously there's a lot of people who are doing stuff on the weekend. So from 12 to 4 p.m. on Central Time, we're also doing support on Sundays now. And so obviously, we get a lot of the same question over and over. And then that is one thing that feeds into new feature development. the other thing is we spend a lot of time talking to customers and before COVID going out to their shops and, just meeting them and learning a little bit more, hearing what they're doing. But yeah, the feature that you're talking about, Josh, that was because you get a lot of frustrated people who just bought a brand new bit and then smash it into the piece of material. So we separated out the Z on that. Another one that's along those lines is we just launched origin safety height and travel safety height.
Yes.
And so that's where, to go over the clamps, you can go tall, but then when you're in the middle of your carve, don't go as tall because it saves a lot of time on a big carve, especially if you're doing V carving, going up and down, up and down, up and down.
I noticed that, and I was as soon as it got released, I think Nick might have pointed it out to me, and I went directly to it and started messing around with it because I had issues in the past with hitting some clamps. Another great addition, I think you guys reworked your paths.
Yes.
Being before and after, a path generation was okay, but since you've upgraded it, less time on the CNC, it seems to run smoother. What's the big difference on your side? Because as a user, I'm just seeing it's faster, it runs cleaner. But on your side, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that was basically, people would just say they wanted it to go faster. And so the team that worked on that, I think they worked on it for the better part of a year because it is actually a pretty challenging computer science problem to optimize. Obviously, it's like no matter what geometry you put in there, make it go faster. Like, okay. And so they spent a long time working on that. But the speed improvements that they were able to make by optimizing the paths are just phenomenal. And something that used to take like an hour can now take anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes or 20 to 25 minutes. In some cases, it's cut down in half. In some cases, by 66% or 2/3. It really just depends on what the geometry is. But yeah, we also did benchmarking versus like competitive V-carve. And so for some designs, it's actually faster than the other ones, but it's not every design. It's like, I don't fully understand why some geometries are faster and some are slower, but it's very, very competitive now, if not faster in most cases.
Yeah, definitely.
So we normally ask what's going on in your shop. So what's going on in your shop? You make anything lately on that monster?
Yeah,
you
I
got
did just
behind
make,
you?
so my neighbor, he had somebody at work retire, and he had all the people that this individual had worked with over his career basically signed their signature on a piece of white paper. He took a picture with his phone of all the signatures, and then he uploaded them into Easel. And then he had me basically carve out like a message and then all the signatures from all the people on a nice piece of wood that he had stained. So that was the last project that I did, and I V-carved it.
That's pretty awesome.
Probably took like 5 minutes.
Pretty sweet.
That one, it was a lot of signatures. So I think it actually took about an hour and a half, but it was huge. It was like this big.
It would have took us like 4 hours.
Yeah.
I was running it at 300 inches a minute.
Okay, stop bragging.
If that's not a flex right there, man. Wow.
Peasants.
But so the next thing I want to do, on one of the Facebook groups, people are making like the jack-o'-lantern things. Have you seen this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next project. Yeah, exactly. That's the next project I want to do is make a bunch of those.
You got kids?
Yeah.
They probably like that kids. Then.
So have them paint it. Yeah.
I'm pretty paint it or put like I saw people putting like LEDs in there and then like the flickering LEDs,
Mm-hmm. No, you know what you do is you make blank ones, right? Just blank, plain, and market them as paintable jack-o'-lanterns instead of the messy pumpkin carving.
Include like this much paint to paint them.
Yeah.
The cheap, a little foam brush is going to give out on the first stripe. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those all over the internet lately, and people are selling them for like $30 bucks a pop. I'm like, holy smoke! Yeah, so I'm a member of a lot of the woodworking pages, and guys are just going out buying like pine or whatever.
I saw that,
and just
they're doing fence posts too, because the fencing material is cheaper than pine. I was like, oh, that's pretty clever.
A lot of them are like, well, my CNC is more accurate, but I could just draw the face on and cut it out with a jigsaw. And just turn these things out like, I'm like, wow. Like, it's the simplest things sometimes.
Holidays, man. Cool, people go crazy around them for the decorations and whatnot. If you tap into that, you can make some money.
Yeah,
I will when I have an Etsy store.
So what kind of shop you got set up there? You just have an X-Carve Pro in there, or you got other wondrous machines of power?
I've got an X-Carve, an X-Carve Pro, a Carvey that we don't sell anymore. I've got a compound miter saw and a soldering station, a bunch of hand tools, power tools.
So your shop is like an Inventables museum, is what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah.
From beginning to now, I like it.
Yeah, I do have, I think, all of the products we've ever made. And I got a bunch of spare parts bins. I got to clean up a little bit.
Well, you should see our shops.
And my shop's clean. Thank you very much.
Oh, you just built a new outfeed table, right?
Tell us about it.
Yes, the garage or the shop. I call it the garage, but that's what the shop is. It's not really a garage anymore. But I went from this monstrosity of a work surface to a more functional torsion box outfeed table for my saw stop. And I did cut out my torsion box legs, if you will, the sides on my CNC, just because, let's just be real, jigsaw is not that accurate. So those that are making, and no offense to the makers out there using jigsaws on jack-o'-lanterns, but it's not as accurate, okay? But I ended up doing that. I finally found a home for all of my clamps. I have more clamps than probably some, and I'm probably buying more. So I have that going on for me. This is true. I do find myself wondering, like, where did my
wife listens to this podcast? You never have enough.
Hey, did you post a picture of your new outfit
I
table
am going
on
to
Instagram?
be doing it today. Of course.
No,
so it is a fail, but I'll tell you why it's a fail. And why I failed at doing my part here is as soon as I was done with the outfeed table, I was into continuing a project I'm working on. So I do have, reluctantly, I hate to say, my very first shadow box being taken out or put into, we'll say, the wild on Friday. I'm working on it now. It's the Security Forces members shadow box. It is my first. Again, asking Nick for pointers and helps and tips and tricks because he's made these before and I haven't. But Nick's also been in the game a little longer, which is why I lean on him heavily when it comes to things I haven't done before that he has. So I do appreciate you, Nick. I appreciate you not charging me for your time.
Don't worry, I get a commission.
Yeah, he gets more business. That's what happens. So I got that going on. It's actually sitting on the CNC right now. I literally just finished Invetric doing the glass, not glass, but plexiglass panel pocket on the back. So I'm about to carve that out. I realized halfway into carving the first one that I was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do both because the clamp is in the way. And that would have been very disastrous, even though they're only 3D printed and it would just ate it anyways. So I got to carve that right after we're off the podcast. But I did finish that keyboard coin rack, which, Josh, you saw a picture of it. I just put Odies Oil on it.
Beautiful.
As soon as I put the Odies on, it was amazing. And then I got a hat press that's going to be due. My child's walking in, of course, as I'm talking about the shop. What's up, dude? Okay, come on, buddy. All right, so he wants to sit and say hey and chill with us on the podcast. Yes, this is allowed. And then I got a picture. So I got some of those do-outs, the ones that are like, hey, when you get time. Well, while stuff's carving, I've actually been able to do some of that stuff. So I made a frame out of Purple Heart for an individual's award. I recreated it, lasered some glass, got some really thick black card stock, got some picture frame hardware. And I'm going to finish that tonight while the CNC's going. And then I got 15 award plaques to make. Apparently what Nick and I did with the induction plaques, people liked it. So they all want another piece of cherry to hang on their wall. So I will oblige and give them a piece of cherry that's lasered. Hang on, buddy. Daddy's talking, okay? And of course I got the jobs with Nick because Nick and I are working on something together. So waiting for him to just shuffle some stuff to me and I'll let him talk more about that here shortly. Do I have anything else? I have a hat box that's still sitting here unassembled because said individuals yet to give me all the stuff, and I'm not going to pester this person. I'm just going to let them do them. I might gently remind them before the holidays if it still isn't done. I just got hit up for another flag, cherry painted flag, real easy, real quick carve with a coin rack slot in the bottom of the frame. The frame is a huge winning point, by the way, Nick, for flags.
Yeah, it really ties it all together.
But realistically, and then finally, the best part of it. So Nick did buy my jet drum sander, 1632. But just yesterday, I had my Supermax 1938 arrive in my shop. Halfway assembled. It was heavy. I probably could have used some help. It was about 230 pounds to pick up off the ground.
Wow.
Mind you, I can lift a lot of weight, but that is awkward weight. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
it's like
good.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Well, I was going to say like my prom date. that was awesome. Anyway, go ahead.
The one sketchy thing about the Supermax was threading the 4 bottom bolts, because I had to set that thing on the stand, which is just as wide as a drum sander. So we'll just say I felt very unsafe at the time putting it together. I was like, if I bump this, I'm hosed. But the one big thing about that Supermax drum sander that I love, that the Jet didn't have, but it's also because that was an older model, fold down outfeed infield tables, so they don't stay out. So when I'm done with them, I can fold them down and put it away. But other than that, that's what's been going on in my shop. Lots of cool stuff, lots of new toys, and more toys to come. Oh, wait, one more. Stock guides. I got those too. Sorry, Nick. I had to mention that one too. He told, hey, Nap, you're not going to regret getting stock guides for your saw stop.
Oh, yeah.
Of course I bought stock guides. They're on my saw stop now. And let me tell you, they're awesome. If only I would have used them for the plywood I put through my saw during the torsion box making. But hey, it is what it is. But I'm done now. Nick.
That actually made me think of my favorite thing in my shop.
What's that?
So I went to IKEA and I got these stainless steel kitchen carts.
Mm-hmm.
And they're on wheels. And then I put bins in them. And then I load up each cart with a specific thing. So one's all the tools, one's all the X-Carve clamps and everything and bits. One's my projects. And then you just roll them out, put them in the closet when you're done. It's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Highly recommend.
Are they on the Inventables website?
No, IKEA.
IKEA? Okay.
150 bucks. Kungsfors kitchen carts, stainless steel on wheels.
Nice.
I'm in serious need of tool management and clamp management. So
I got the idea from Mythbusters, Adam Savage, because I had everything in toolboxes, and then he did this whole video on how toolboxes are tyranny.
Well, it's true that you're a slave to your toolbox.
That's what he said, because you open it up and you're like, so you need to have everything exposed. And I was like, that's genius.
Yeah, well, I said that, but I got arrested for it. But anyway, I want to go ahead and let you guys in on a little secret. Nap did not sell me his drum sander. I forced him to give it to me after I paid him.
Okay, he did.
Okay. So I don't know if I told you guys last time, but I was like, hey, Nap, I'm going to pay you for your drum sander and you're going to buy a new one.
Pretty much
today.
what happened.
And that's pretty much what happened. So anyway, but my shop's got tons of stuff going on. And that large job I talked about last week, it's a very large job, especially for a couple of guys working out of their 2-car garages. And so much so I had to go buy a bigger storage unit for all the lumber, walnut and cherry wood. Nat bought some 8-quarter and 10-quarter Wenge wood, which is ridiculous in price, mind you.
I got cheapest.
But I ended up.
It looks beautiful though.
So oh yeah, it's like one of a kind, obviously, but it's so heavy. Holy cow! And then I bought this slab. I don't even want to call it 8-quarter. It's 8-quarter slab of walnut that's about 25 inches wide.
Oh wow!
And I think it's about 5 foot long.
How much did that cost you?
Barely anything.
Barely anything. The guy was selling a bunch of lumber out of his garage. I think it might have fallen off a truck. I don't know. I don't ask questions. It was Facebook Marketplace.
Of course it was.
Long story short.
Of course it was. I should have known.
So Zach, I don't know if you realize this or not, or if you've listened to any of our previous podcasts about Facebook Marketplace, but I buy a lot of stuff off there. And I've actually got an X-Carve 1000mm off there before for a severely discounted price, and it was awesome. So thanks Inventables for making the machine. I love when people buy them and don't use them and then just sell them. So
these are facts.
But these are facts, but most people use them, and that's what I find anyway. Other than that, I got your typical baloney going on in the shop. I'm building boxes and shadow boxes and all that stuff. Trying to clear out all my orders so I can start building this podium. And that's what all the big lumber's for, is I'm building a podium and some large scale signs. So I will be tiling with my X-Carves. And
cool.
yeah, other than that, I don't have much else going on in the shop. I'm just so stoked to have Zach here today. You know, it's been a while. So, but Josh, what do you got going on in your shop before we wrap this episode up?
Well, you know, normal stuff. Most of the stuff I talked about last week. I got the cornhole boards out of the shop. The Steelers, first time I laid vinyl on my boards, basically covered the entire top. So, you know, it was easy. I loved it. In fact, I don't mind making them when I have to put the vinyl on because it was so easy to paint the bottom. And
you don't have to paint them.
Yeah. Well, I painted the bottoms and sides because I wanted to match the top. But it was actually... everything worked out. I made the legs. I didn't have to recut the legs. The first cuts were, basically where they needed to go. I nailed down the process, which should have took me less time to do. But let's face it, when you make like 4 a year, sometimes you lose a little in between. But got those knocked out. Put the kayak handles on there. The beer bottle opener. Guy came pick them up. Loved them. Can't complain about that. Also, that Mickey Mouse sign with the it's the shape of the Mickey Mouse, and then internal has the family name large, and then their last name. Used the X-Carve to carve that out and stained it and gave it to them. They love that. It's hanging on their front door as we speak. I have a whole bunch of other projects that are coming up. A lot of things I'm trying to develop to put on Etsy store. It's a lot of research and development, price, what I'm going to charge, because I'm more of a commission. I've always been commission. So thinking about putting stuff up for sale without, someone approaching me saying, I want this, it's a different side of this business that I've really haven't embraced all that much. So with
Give me a call. I'll tell you all about it.
Oh yeah. And it's trying to get your finger on the pulse right now. What's selling? What do people want?
Jack-o'-lanterns, bro.
Yeah.
Jack-o'-lanterns are selling.
I already wrote it down. It's in there. But with that, I'm just knocking out the projects I have. This week's kind of slow. It allowed me to do some yard work and get some things around the house, including putting up my kayaks on the back of the shed back there. Now they're off the ground, so that's helpful. And then I ran into Matt from Smashing Knives. I've talked about him on here before. He's a local maker around here that makes knives and great at it. If you're not following him, you're wrong. But anyway, he gave me some maple, spalted maple, a big old chunk of it. And wow. I don't know if you can see it, but it's
beautiful.
It's a beautiful piece. It has a little bit of moss and whatnot from there when they cut it down. And looking at it, Totalboat was one of our sponsors, and I love working with epoxy when I can. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to clean it up, square it off, and then get a form for it and pour some clear epoxy in there. Now, I'm not sure what the final is going to be, but I was thinking about putting, I'm a nerd, some Star Wars ships in there.
Nerd!
And like flying around, chasing around.
Nerd alert!
But it's something,
nerd alert!
It's something different. And I'm going to make it into a lantern for my side table by my chair. The best thing about being a maker is you can literally make whatever you want. Yeah, so I'm going to have this beautiful piece sitting there with some Totalboat epoxy and my Star Wars ships. I don't care what you say. And it's going to be part of my living room. So haven't told my wife about the Star Wars thing yet. I don't know how she'll react. But we're just going to leave that out until it's already on there.
Oh, no.
But so I thank you for, giving me that big old chunk. And that's the great thing about this community. It's, community over competition. And with that, it makes making very easy. I mean, we've already talked about it. Nick helped me set up my X-Carve. He helps Nap. Nap helps me. I help Nap. Like I said, community over competition. I'm sure you've experienced that too, Zach.
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the number of projects that have been shared over the years in Inventables, like in the project section, it's thousands, maybe even tens of thousands at this point. And if you go on any of the Facebook groups, like you ask a question, 20 people respond in like 30 seconds. It's unbelievable.
It is.
Lior Fried from, what's it called? Adafruit once told me, she's like, if you think about making as a sport, it's like skateboarding, where like everybody is like sort of supportive of everybody else's tricks. You're sharing tricks, you know, as opposed to like other sports where it's like head-to-head competition. You want to kill everybody. Like there's plenty for everybody to go around. So it's such a cool, fun community to be a part of.
Absolutely. And when Matt gave me this piece, he mentioned that he was listening to the podcast when he gave it to me. We're driving. He waved me down. We stopped. We talked. And he's like, you guys really bring out the community over competition when we talk, and we talk about people helping people. I can't thank him enough for this big chunk of maple. I'm truly excited about using it. But with that,
so one more thing, this has everything to do with helping each other out. But the Makers Community Project is a nonprofit organization. If you check them out on Instagram, it's at the Maker Community Project. Mike from Veteran Woodco actually, I believe he's one of the head guys over there. He started the page. They're actually doing a sweepstakes for a Stepcraft CNC. If you go follow Mike from Veteran Woodco or at Veteran Woodco and the Maker Community Project, nothing against Inventables here, but they're doing the sweepstakes. I gotta mention it from Stepcraft. You could have a chance at winning a free CNC by supporting this project, and it just to their mission is to empower, equip, and ignite passion for disabled woodworkers and makers in the United States. So I know they're always looking at providing better, safer tools for people who have disabilities. So it's a great cause. Check them out. Go buy a T-shirt. Link trees on Veteran Woodco's page on the Instagram. But that being said,
yeah. We have a huge community of disabled veterans that have X-Carves. I've talked to a lot of guys.
Oh, yeah. We just love to build stuff. I don't understand. It's just ingrained in us.
It's in our blood.
It's in our nature. We like to make beef jerky. We like to.
We go on riverboat gambling trips. No.
We poo with the door open. Come on. We've literally done none of those things.
But anyhow, I think we're about out of time. What do you think, Josh?
I think we have one more thing. Nap.
Okay, I know I said I was done with my shop, but Nick did it again. He's really bad for my pocketbooks, and I remembered. I bought a Merca sander.
Oh, he did. He did it.
Did you use our
I bought a yeah, I did. I talked to Ed over there at Oak Ridge, right?
Oak Ridge Woodworks, yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, Zach, if you need a top of the line sander, you let us know. We'll hook you up with Ed. Ed will get you squared away.
Sounds good.
He's a National Abrasives vendor for Merca.
So yeah,
congratulations, man.
Yeah, I bought the 650 5mm Orbit. I'm pretty excited. It's going to be here whenever they get their ship in from the port. They're waiting for it to eventually make its way in here. But
it's coming from Europe though, so you're safe. Anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to reopen a bag of worms. We'll talk about it offline. But yeah, I got a Merca sander. I'm pretty excited.
That's awesome. But with that, hey man, congratulations. Let's go jump into sponsors with Nick.
Thank you so much to PWN CNC. Check them out, pwncnc.com or at pwncnc on Instagram. Daniel over there has new spindle kits available, water-cooled, air-cooled, available for your X-Carve, Shapeoko, whatever. There's tons of other CNCs that he makes that he's going to have kits for. So give him a look. For 10% off, use promo code Sawdust Nation. And Totalboat Epoxy. They make the best epoxy in the world. I must say, they have fantastic customer service. And if you need that epoxy, that varnish, which is we also call Halcyon, or that wood filler, or supplies to pour epoxy, hit them up at totalboat.com or www.totalboat.com or at Totalboat on the big IG. And last but not least, Jtechphotonics. Thank you so much for your continued support. What about our patrons? We got to thank those guys, right? Thank you so much to our patrons for your continued support. You guys allow us to do these giveaways every month for everybody who comes to our live events and all of our other giveaways. So thank you so much for your continued support. We hope you enjoy the content we provide you. Josh.
Hey, if you want to get a hold of us, you can always get a hold of us on our 5 accounts you can hit us up on. If you want to get a hold of the podcast, go ahead and get a hold of us at the Sawdust Nation podcast page. You'll hit either one of the 3 of us or all 3 of us. You never know. You have Nick from MPG Creations. Slide into his DMs. Watch out for that mustache. So we have Nap from Napsonality Works LLC. You can always hit him up. He's always working on something great. And myself, Josh from North Country Woodworking. And then Inventables. You can hit them up. You talk to them. I'm telling you, if you talk to them, you're going to buy a CNC that day. I did.
I'm already buying a Pro. It's in my cart.
And Zach, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you guys for having me.
I know we've been talking about it for a while, but thank you. It's been wonderful.
Absolutely. Yep. And with that, you can always just send us an email at sawdustnationpodcast@gmail.com. You can go and send us a topic idea, a question, or you can anything about the podcast. We'd love to hear what you have to say. Zach, thank you for coming on. And we came full circle. We interviewed you on this podcast, AJ from Crafted NJ and myself. When we first started, we did a telephone conference talking about the Pro. So you finally made it to the podcast, and thank you very much for coming. And
cool. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Nap, what do you got?
Well, if you listen to podcasts on the Apple Podcast, hopefully we didn't forget about them. We can go ahead and give us 5 stars if you enjoy the content that you hear on a daily basis or on a weekly basis, not a daily basis from us. Or if you are listening to us on a daily basis and catching up on the podcast, if you're new, make sure you're giving us those 5 stars. But if you do give us lower than 5 stars, let us know what we need to talk about to get us up to that 5-star rating. Because at the end of the day, this is for you, not just for us. So that's what I got about that podcast.
Final words.
No, I mean, just thank you for inviting me to come on the podcast today. If people are interested in the X-Carve Pro, if you order today, we're offering 0% APR financing. So basically, you just take the amount that it says and divide by the number of months that you want to pay it. So I think 48 months is the longest.
Oh, shoot.
They'll extend it out.
It is. I'd love
That's
to.
like
I was going to do
$278
I was going to do 278 months, but I don't think that would work.
And and then the plan is that we're going to be in stock, shipping same day in December. But it's a crazy world out there with COVID and the supply chain, so I can't promise that.
You never know.
Never know what's going to happen.
All right, Nap.
Yeah, so final words are, hey, folks, keep looking out for each other out there. Keep helping each other out. There's always a new maker out there looking for somewhere to start. Like I said last podcast, I got an individual. He's literally been hitting me up on the daily asking for ideas. He was texting me during the podcast today like, Nap, what do you think of this? Do you think this would be good? How do I do this? How do I do that? What kind of bits do I need to use? And I'm always available for anybody to help. It's just really nice to know that people think that highly of me, that they would actually come to me for help. But that's not just me. That's any maker, I would hope, because, again, it is about community over competition. So keep helping each other out. Keep making sawdust out there. Nick,
that's right.
What you got?
So, like always, take care of yourselves and each other. And until next time, you can pick your friends and you can pick your nose, but you can't pick your friend's nose.
No.
Go ahead, Josh.
Thank you for listening to Sawdust Nation Podcast. We love when you turn us on every week and we get to whisper in your ear when you're doing dishes, when you're out mowing the lawn, when you're out in the shop, driving your car, what have you. Thank you for listening. Go make some sawdust. And Sawdust Nation out! Yes.
Hey, Zach, it's been fun. I'm so glad to have you out here, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks, guys. It was fun, too. Funny and fun.